Today, kids, merely Beau, the great Z. I got a lot of problems with you people. I feel like I got a little Frank Costanza in me today.
Let's have an airing of the grievances.
Yeah, there could be an airing of the grievances.
Bring
All
it
right,
on.
here's one out of the gates. So you asked me before we started, have I seen this giant, what appears to be a pterodactyl?
It's a griffin vulture.
Okay, great. Yes, I've seen it. Thanks to about 7 million of you sending it to me. Okay, great. No, I don't like it. It's terrifying. What I am curious about is, how big do you think that thing is? Because it looks like the wingspan is about 27 feet, but I know they don't grow that big because I've done my research on the griffin vulture, and it's not even the biggest vulture. There's an Andean vulture that's even bigger than that. So I know that, and that's 11.
That's right.
Private school. I know it's not that big, but what angle is it that makes that thing looks like it is 30 feet across?
I bet it's probably, this is going to be my real life guesstimate. It looked to me like it's a 15-foot wingspan.
That's what I think too, but they don't go that big.
Which is substantial.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dinosaur, Coach.
It's huge.
I know.
But
I think it's the angle of it, though. It can't be that big because they don't get that big.
That looked pretty big because there are people there that give perspective.
The biggest, I know, but I'm wondering if it's the angle because the biggest ones of those are like 9.5 feet, close to 10 feet.
Wingspan total?
Wingspan, yeah.
This might be the
This
king.
got to be a world record holder.
Well, when I looked at it, and what I loved about it is once it got out and it was being released, it immediately said, soak in my grace. I haven't seen an animal peacocking around like that since Chesty Gibbe after back-to-back 4-1s.
I think that's fair.
But we won't see that tomorrow.
We won't see that tomorrow, kids.
We won't see that tomorrow.
We won't see that tomorrow.
You might see something else.
Something else potentially could be in play. You can't tell me anybody, and obviously it's well known that I'm terrified of birds, but you won't find anybody. You can't tell me anybody. Look, if that thing walks in here, is like, oh yeah, gosh, that's gorgeous. Can I pet that thing? Can I get a cuddle?
No.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. I'm with you.
No feathers on the head just adds to it.
By the way, took the kids last night. First film in a movie theater post all the pandemic craziness.
Yeah.
And we saw Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is Marvel. And we talked about this yesterday, but number one, it's great. Awkwafina's great in it. And the cast, it's got good humor, great action. It's stunning visually.
Yep.
But the way that they are using this, not only to introduce a new character and a new legend and to have them kind of come into the universe, they're using this to also explain things that are going to be coming in the multiverse with Doctor Strange and all that. It's just the thought that goes in, well, here's a movie where we're going to tell this really cool story. We're going to introduce a new character that we're going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff with, or two new characters in this case, but we're also going to use it to further our global message about the coming multiverse. Incredible.
I think it's one of the greatest achievements in the history of cinema. We were talking about this off air yesterday. The idea that you'd look at something over the course of 20 years and map it out and make individually great films, because they're all great. And I know you guys watched them in the pandemic. I watched them in the pandemic with our kids, and most of them are very accessible. I mean, even Bootsy saw a lot of them. You're able to kind of feel where this is going to get dicey, and you can fast forward. Even for him, and he was 5 at the time, 5. And but to also tie it into a bigger world, I just don't know that anybody else has even tried to do that. And I was saying this, I assume at some point they're going to want to reset it, because and I just feel like you're not going to want to go 30 years without a Captain America movie or without an Iron Man movie. And I wonder if at some point they'll reset the universe, and I feel like it has to come at some point.
So I brought that up last night with my family.
Yeah.
And my kids are huge into Marvel, and a lot of times when they're on TikTok and they're looking around, they're looking for Marvel spoilers, rumors. That's what they're after. So they don't think so. They think that what they're doing now is they've introduced the multiverse. So what they could do is in the multi-universe, I mean, they could go to a different universal plane and revisit some of those characters who would then be tweaked because it's a different universe. So like what Marvel's introduced now is that there is an infinite number of universes stacked on top of each other.
Right.
So that way, but like as far as a straight redo of Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and all that, they don't see that.
Not happening. Okay. Well,
but that's how they'll get to bringing
because
back
we've had
another Iron Man.
We've had 3 different Spider-Mans in the last 20 years.
For sure.
And we've had a lot of different Batmans. I realize it's DC, not Marvel, but I think at some point that's probably the way they do it. They go with a different universe, but I think you want to do another Iron Man movie in another universe. You're going to recast.
Sure.
Here's the other thing, and obviously we're not doing a Marvel podcast, but the one thing I will,
it would be good.
It would be really good if we did. The other thing I would say is I don't know that I've ever seen better casting ever.
Crushed. Everybody's crushed. It's great.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, they really nailed all of it, my friend. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're quite good. Quite good.
Yeah.
Good news today here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus, by the way.
Give it to the people. Give
Good
the people
news.
what they want.
Jarvis spoke. We're going to have that for you coming up on the show. According to the rundown, that's going to come your way at
1:45.
That's right, 1:45. Jarvis Landry, he says he will play. We know Jack Conklin will play. We know that Baker was at practice yesterday, came out of it, and feeling good, I'm told. So I expect him to go, and it looks like he's going to start. Nick Chubb is looking great in practice. Clowney should be able to get back soon. Malik's going to get back soon and should be ready to go. I think the one person, when you talk about the big picture of guys who aren't IR, Kareem and JOK, I think the only person that right now there is some legitimate doubt as to the availability, the two people, would be DPJ and Denzel, who both have the soft tissue injuries suffered on Thursday.
Yeah, and when will we have both out today? Do we have that information yet? Are we to a point where that's known?
That we do not have yet terms of their practice.
We'll know a little bit more
mid-show, right?
Yeah, mid-show.
Like 2 o'clock?
Team will hit the practice field in about 30 minutes from now.
Okay. So on the pulse. Man's on the pulse.
Huge B.
Let me ask you a question. So that's very good news.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Please.
Is Mark Davis the trivia question answer for the wealthiest a man can be in a bowl cut, a starter jacket, and a backpack? Is that combination, give me the Lloyd Christmas, give me the starter jacket, and give me the backpack. Is that the wealthiest, most successful that combination has ever manifested in real life?
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
I don't even know. Second's eighth. Has to be.
I don't even think there is a second.
It's second a millionth.
Yes. I don't think it exists. I think he's one of one.
By the way, standing up to everybody yesterday.
Yeah, he's like, no.
I believe I'd like to see a report.
I fell on the sword.
Yes.
You used my guy.
You used my guy.
He's out. And they've reached a settlement, supposedly, on the final 10 years. I don't know if the terms were disclosed, but apparently they are.
Oh, because I would think you could fire him with cause.
They figured it out. Yeah, but the things that happened did not happen while he was
valid
an employee of the Raiders.
What do you think the chances are Mark Davis fit the bill for that? Or did the rest
I
of the
think
league?
they came to a number that was probably not all, but probably substantial still.
Yeah. Stand it up. Say, no, I'd like to see a report on all of this. I would like to know more.
Yeah, and you wonder, and now I'm starting to think, because we talked about this yesterday, and so, Goodell in the Seth Wickersham piece said that the NFL was not in any way responsible for the Gruden leak. So then that begs the question, well, who was?
Who was?
And what's the motivation? And so my guess is either there are two possibles. One, somebody who had an axe to grind with John Gruden, and it was personal.
Yep.
Two, this is getting all swept under the rug. We need to bring some attention on this. We somehow got our hands on this because somebody must have had an axe to grind with John Gruden. So let's put that out, and then that is the one way to maybe blow this up where we're going to get what we want out of it, which is the full transparency.
Yeah. Oh, I think you have that right. I think you absolutely have that right. That's the way that would go. And Gruden was critical of Goodell in the emails, so that there could be something there where you'd have an axe to grind with it. But it's far from over, and this is the first time the owners have met in 2 years. So because of COVID. So it's the first time they've met in person in 2 years. So you got a lot to deal with here. And the Kroenke stuff's crazy, where he leaves the room while everybody discusses who's going to pay for all of this with these lawsuits out of St. Louis. So this is a fascinating time for the league. All the while, the trade deadline is next Tuesday, I believe. Do I have that right? Next Tuesday is the trade deadline. I would put this to you. I think not necessarily big names. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's the biggest name out there that potentially could be moved, although that seems to have cooled. But I think you could see a lot of guys dealt. Mark Ingram dealt last night. And I think you're going to see a lot of guys dealt because there's like 7 or 8 teams who are just flat out terrible. Just terrible. And they could – you think about Miami among other teams. If you have Jets, if you have veterans, move them to contending teams. can try to get to the bottom and try to have draft picks. It's
an
NBA way of thinking.
What's odd about this year,
baseball too,
is that you have the NFL is supposed to be all about parity, and you have on any given Sunday, I still believe for the most part anything can happen, but you have a league where it's pretty clearly defined the 10, we even extend it to 12 teams that have a chance to win the Super Bowl at the end of this year, and then nobody else does.
Yeah.
Like, not at all.
Correct.
Like, maybe there's a team, and the reason I said 12 is perhaps there's a team that is going to get hot at the right time that we're not, seeing. Like, maybe the
12
Falcons
teams
get
that
hot.
could win it. Is that where you're at? I think it's fair. I think there are 12.
Right now, you've got just off the top of my head, in the AFC teams that I really feel have a chance to win the Super Bowl based on what we've seen thus far. Bills in their division. Our division, I think you could say Ravens, Bengals, and us. I think you have to say the Bengals right now, so that's 4. In the South, I think it's Tennessee.
Yep.
I don't think Indy's winning Super Bowl, even though they're not playing bad football. And then in the AFC West, I think it's the Chargers. I think you've got to say Las Vegas, the way that they're playing. And
you can't throw the Chiefs out.
And you can't throw the Chiefs out. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on our side. And then in the NFC, where it gets real limited, I think in the North, you've got Green Bay. In the
Dallas in the East.
And Dallas in the East. In the South, you've got Tampa Bay. And in the West, I think you've got Arizona. You've got the Rams.
I mean, you're at 13 teams.
I'm
right?
not really ready to throw out Seattle,
They're close.
But we're getting
both
close.
of those teams are close.
The Niners are not winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm ready to throw them. They can be thrown out.
Yeah.
But that's 13.
But then there's a small middle class, and then it's destitute.
Right, where it's like Minnesota still could be scary.
Yeah. Maybe
Atlanta wakes up
Indy,
and they're scary.
Atlanta, Minnesota.
Maybe New Orleans. I don't know.
Yeah, depending. Yeah, there's then there's New England would be in that group. Pittsburgh would be in that group.
Sure.
Those type of teams that are still in the mix there. So I do think it'll be a very fascinating lead up to the deadline.
Just reflecting really quickly on the Saints. Why do you think, and maybe it's because they don't have Mike Evans and Brashad Perriman or Godwin, why aren't they trying to run any of the stuff that Jameis actually does well?
It's a fantastic point. I don't know. I mean, maybe when Michael Thomas comes back, and although he's not Mike Evans.
He's not a vertical guy.
No, they don't really have that.
Jameis is a huck chuck football guy. He's not
right. But I think he's a reckless huck chuck football, and that's something Sean Payton doesn't want. All these guys are the same, buddy. They all want the surest way to a victory, and they want to trust their quarterbacks. So that's what he's trying to do with Jameis. He's trying to have another way for Jameis to play. I just don't know that he can.
Yep.
Those are your OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns. For all the X's and O's for your office, call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. We'll go behind enemy lines with our good friend Brooke Pryor coming up next. Off and running, Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Live tonight from West Park Station, presented by our friends at Bud Light. We'll be there from 7 to 8. Giveaways, drink specials. Kevin Mack will be there as well. That's tonight at 7. The Kevin Stefanski Show live from West Park Station, presented by Bud Light. And let's go behind enemy lines. Their good friend Brooke Pryor covers the Steelers for ESPN. 3-3 coming into this one. Last 2 times out, the Browns got the better of the Steelers. Pittsburgh's an interesting team because Brooke, honestly, sometimes I watch him and I think, boy, that's kind of hopeless. Doesn't seem like they're going anywhere. And then the last couple of weeks, though, they've gotten some momentum. They've gotten Najee Harris going a little bit. Take me inside kind of the camp over there in terms of how good they think they are or how good they think they can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've really seen 2 extremes with this team. I mean, either you have week 1 against Buffalo when they come out and just really get the better of what looks like the best team in the NFL or one of the best teams in the NFL, and then they can also come out and lay an egg against the Raiders and the Bengals, who actually both teams, but specifically the Bengals, look like a stronger opponent. But I think that this is a team that understands that maybe they're not quite as good as they were week 1, but they're also not as bad as their lowest games. They're somewhere in the middle working to get back to, especially defensively, how they played against the Bills. But I think this team, the biggest thing is they're just trying to figure out their offensive identity at this point. We're, 8 weeks in, and that's still a huge question mark here. They know that they want to be balanced, but it's still figuring out how to do that. So it is kind of crazy that at this point in the season there's still so many question marks that they're trying to figure out. And, maybe the bye week came at the right time. They talked about taking kind of the 20,000-foot view and reevaluating some things, but I think we'll actually get a good feel for what they're really able to fix and figure out going into this game.
Brooke, where's Ben Roethlisberger? Because, you think of Ben and you think the guy who wants to shrug off blitzers and buy time and throw it down the field, but the numbers say, and the tape says, this is a guy who's better when he's getting it out quick rather than doing old Ben Roethlisberger things. So what do you see from him? How would you describe him as a quarterback? What are his strengths right now? What are his weaknesses?
Well, I can tell you physically where he is right now. He's about 100 yards to my left on the practice field. But on the field on game days, I mean, Mike Tomlin jokes about it every week, but he's serious. Like, this is not the same mobile Ben, or at least mobile in the way that he was, like you said, where he could shake off blitzers and kind of take a couple quick steps in the pocket to really extend a play. That isn't really a part of his arsenal anymore, so he has to get the ball out quick. And the offensive line has been kind of a question mark. I think that they're starting to gel a little bit more, which gives him some more time, and he has to find the sweet spot where you can't get the ball out too quick because then the plays aren't developing down the field, and that's been a huge problem, is that the receivers sometimes aren't where they should be, or they're getting open, and instead he checks it down or looks for the easier pass or goes with his first read because he's not taking time to see the full field. And part of that has been because of the offensive line, but as they get better, he has to be comfortable with standing back there in the pocket and trusting the guys in front of him. And also working on his mechanics, which is something that's kind of crazy to say that at 39 years old, as long as he's played, that he's got to look at those things. But he talked about that being an issue against the Packers a couple weeks ago, that the lower half of his body wasn't in sync with the upper half. He was doing things like dropping his elbow, and he's also been dealing with injuries that have also kind of compromised some of the integrity of his throws. So I think if he can correct all of those things that he can do individually, he's been working with quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan. If he can do those things, then he'll be fine, but he's not going to be able to fully turn back the clock to Ben of old, where he could kind of run around and escape some of that pressure. Like that's just not a thing that he can do anymore.
Brooke, the Najee Harris was a guy I loved at Alabama on the field and off. He was a guy who I think if you weren't watching their games and you saw the statistics he was accumulating early in the season, you'd go, boy, what a disappointment. He's not delivering. But, my God, he was delivering in every way. I mean, from blitz pickup, he was open. They'd miss him on the short stuff constantly. It seems like they figured it out a little bit the last couple of weeks. What have you seen from him? And I would assume that they are thrilled with what they're getting out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. It was definitely a disappointment, I would say, when you look at the raw numbers from the first couple of weeks. The fact that the Steelers' whole mandate going into the offseason was fix the run game, fix the run game, fix the run game. And they come out the first couple of weeks and they're last in the league in the run game and in rushing. But I think that they have figured out how to use Najee Harris. Like you said, he's such a versatile threat that they figured out, oh, yeah, we can use him in the pass game. We can use him in the run game. He's a strong guy. He can be a blocker. Like, whatever they need him to do, he'll do. And a large piece of that goes back to the offensive line with them figuring it out. And once that group started to gel in front, the hole started to open up a little bit more, going early instead of, the touches just not coming or the getting hit a lot behind the line of scrimmage. That was a huge problem in the first couple of weeks, and that isn't happening as often now. So, yeah, they're pretty happy with what he's doing. And I think the Broncos game, if you look at those numbers, he ran the ball more. He had more rush attempts than Roethlisberger had pass attempts, and that's kind of the recipe that this offense needs to be successful and to not, have Ben's arm absolutely fall off his body.
When you think about the Steelers and offense, in my mind, Ben Roethlisberger, 20 points should be easy. And it seems that number, thanks to their tremendous media guide, is a huge one. This year, they're 3-0 when they score 20 points, 0-3 when they have not. Under Tomlin, 123-33 when they score 20, 25-48 when they do not. It doesn't feel like a lot of points, but it has been for this offense, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I mean, that I think is like you said, that's the threshold that they have to hit because for one thing, the defense has had a hard time stopping the ball, which as we know, yes, you guys are well aware, the Browns have a great run game, and that is going to be an issue on Sunday unless the Steelers have figured out how to tackle better. But for this offense, I think a lot of it has been predicated on throwing short like it was last year. They're trying to do it in a couple different ways with the Matt Canada offense, but still they're not stretching the field vertically, and it's just taking a lot more to get down the field. They're not getting these chunk splash plays that they need to score quickly. It feels like a lot of these drives are really labor intensive, and that just makes it a real task to get to 20 points. But if they can do that, if they can do things like score early, on that first drive a couple of times, they've hit Deontay Johnson. Ben Roethlisberger's hit him for those touchdowns. They need to do that. And then I think that helps them hit that 20 mark and, kind of get over the finish line.
What do you attribute the lack of downfield passing to? Ben's arm or the offensive line and the lack of trust in what is really a remade offensive line? If the answer is the line, who stands out to you right now as some of the weak spots that they would be concerned about going against the Browns' defensive front?
I think it's a combination of the two because in practice, I've seen Ben throw that long ball. He's done it at times in the game. It's not always consistent, though, and I think that is what makes it more difficult. And sometimes it seems like he's not on the right page with his receivers. Like, guys are stopping short on routes. They're running the wrong route. That's led to some interceptions. Deontay Johnson, for as good as he has been for Ben, is one of those guys that sometimes just they're off. They're not quite in sync. And some of these guys also aren't making the combat catches. Chase Claypool, as good as he's been at times, especially in his rookie year, also he's being targeted downfield and he's not coming down with the ball. But at the same time, Ben's arm isn't always getting it there. And the offensive line, I think, has been a little bit of an issue, especially early on, trying to hold back the pass rush. Chuks Okorafor at right tackle has been a little up and down. He was great against Von Miller. For whatever reason, he always seems to play well against Von Miller. But outside of that, it's been kind of rocky, but it's going to get interesting because Zach Banner, who started out the season on IR after that ACL tear a year ago, is back and healthy and available to play. And this offensive line, it seems to now have found chemistry and rhythm. If they need to play their five best guys, could mean bumping Chuks Okorafor off the line, moving Okorafor over to left tackle and replacing rookie Dan Moore to put Banner at right tackle. There could be some more moving parts there on the line to make this look different than it's looked in the first 6 games of this season.
Brooke, where are they health-wise for this weekend? Any ones that are going to be right down to the wire?
I don't think so unless something pops up in practice, which this team has had issues with soft tissue injuries occurring late in the week. There have been some groin and some hamstring issues that have happened in other weeks that didn't show up until Friday. I think Joe Hayden and Devin Bush both had some pop up late in the week, early in the season, ended up missing the game. But at this point, they had a pretty clean injury report yesterday, and I don't expect any of that to change going forward. So they should be at full strength, obviously missing guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyson Alualu and Stephon Tuitt, but the guys who are on the active 53, I don't think there's anybody that's really going to be held back because of injury.
This defense, it obviously starts up front. T.J. Watt, familiar face, our favorite, Joe Hayden on the back end. You know, they've kind of been, it feels like the defense, too, a little bit up and down from times. You mentioned something with trouble stopping the run. Where's this defense as you compare it to what some of the great Steelers defenses have been recently?
Yeah, that's interesting because I think it goes back to the Bills game here, is that when they came out against the Bills, this defense just looked like it could be a championship-level defense, and then some of the performance dropped off from that. A lot of that because of injury. Alex Highsmith dealing with a groin issue. Same thing for T.J. Watt. Devin Bush had the same thing, and he's still, working his way back from his ACL tear last year. I think this defense, in order for them to get to the next level and match some of the great defenses that this team has had, I mean, even as recently as 2019, is they have got to create more turnovers. That's something that is just not happening. I can't remember the stats now because the last time I looked at it was right before the bye, so of course that has completely escaped my brain. But they're way off pace for where they normally are in creating turnovers, especially a guy like Mika Fitzpatrick, who, when he got here, was just a turnover machine. That same production isn't there this year. And for a little bit, the pass rush wasn't getting much pressure on the quarterback anyway, because other teams just weren't throwing against the Steelers, going back to the offensive struggles because they were up by so much. And so I think the offensive struggles have put the defense in a tough spot, but the last couple weeks when they've really let teams come back in the second half and run all over them, that hasn't been because of the offense. That's been because of just a lack of fundamentals and things like tackling, something that you can work on during the week, but you won't know how much doing some of those, working on angling drills, tackling sleds, things like that, you're not going to know how effective that is until game day. So they've got some major questions. I think T.J. Watt is also not helped by the fact that he's not playing opposite of Bud Dupree. Alex Highsmith is going to be really good, but he's not Bud Dupree, not yet. And I think T.J. Watt has been just trying to do too much. He'll tell you that he's been trying to do too much. And teams can really key in on him because of the imbalance there. So they are definitely still going through some growing pains. They just have to correct, especially those fundamentals.
Yeah, and let me ask you, this is the first time since, the 90s that the Steelers have lost consecutive games to the Browns. Does it feel different to you talking to the guys? I know Chase Claypool, his comments vastly different than they were last time he was getting ready to play the Cleveland Browns. So do you sense that there is a slightly different feeling about this game and this, rivalry?
I think that this team is very cognizant to not give the Browns bulletin board material, to not give them any extra fuel, knowing, like you said, they've lost the last two games. And, yes, one's week 17, so there's a little bit of an asterisk there. But I think that playoff loss is really nagging at them, especially, I think to an extent they try to downplay it to us because, again, you don't want to just hand out bulletin board material for free. But talking to a guy like Eric Ebron, who's very emotional and very honest, he's like, yeah, they just whooped us. Like, if you can't get up for this game, why are you playing football? Like, they beat us at home, sent us home. This hurts. And I think it elevates the rivalry to a new level because it was one-sided for so long. Now it's like, okay, you can't just take this week as an automatic win or like, oh, yeah, of course, all right, we'll beat the Browns and then on to the next week. Like, you can't do that. And they'll tell you, well, we never really did that. But still, I mean, recent history, like I said, it's been one-sided. I think that they don't want to add any more fuel. They are plenty motivated by last year. And they respect the Browns. Chase Claypool said the Browns are a Super Bowl contending team. Like you said, it's a lot different than the tone from a year ago. I think that was kind of humbling in a lot of ways and is really going to be a point of motivation no matter, they may not come out and say it, but that has to burn at you and just really get at you.
Brooke, you're the best. Thanks for your time.
Great.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Always great talking to Brooke Pryor. Covers the Steelers expertly for
Excellent.
ESPN.
Yeah, excellent.
They've done a great job. We've had Courtney on Minnesota. We've had Ben on this week with Cincinnati. Obviously, Jake here, Brooke. they've done a great job with their ESPN Nation people. They've
Very
done
good.
a
Elite.
great job.
Elite.
Yep, absolutely. Gambling without setting limits on how much you're going to wager or how long you'll play is like a football team going into a game without a game plan. It's probably going to end up in a loss. So always set limits before you bet. Get more tips at keepitfunohio.com. We will do the matchups, our offense versus their defense coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub. Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys them by the truckload. And Northeast Factory Direct took everything you hate out about shopping. There's no big fancy showroom or annoying high-pressure salespeople. Northeast Factory Direct, just a simple warehouse. You benefit from that, though. Their salespeople, they don't work on commission. They pass all the savings on to you. Always wanted a hot tub? Thought you couldn't afford it? You can. You can at Northeast Factory Direct. You can see for yourself. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. Time to meet our offense versus their defense in the matchup. And for that, we go to Dr. Z.
All right. Steelers defense comes in right now. They are ranked 12th in scoring defense, 22 points a game, 12th in total defense, 352 yards a game, 12th in rushing defense, 107.7, and they are 15th against the pass, 244.7. This is a defense. This is a 3-4. They are going to attack you. They're going to play a lot of cover one, a little man one. They're going to play some cover three at you when they play some of those zones, and then they're going to play those fire zone, which is where they will blitz, and you don't know who's dropping. Could be the nose tackle. Could be one of the defensive ends. Could be one of the outside linebackers dropping to try to drop into those hot read zones and get a quick turnover. Now, that's something they would say they have struggled doing as well as the Browns. They are -2 in the turnover battle, just like we are. Up front, this is a Steelers team that's going to start on the defensive line. Chris Wormley, Isaiah Buggs at the nose tackle, and Isaiah Buggs, big man, large, huge human. And then, of course, there is Cam Hayward at defensive tackle. Buggs is former 6th-round pick out of Alabama. So those three. What they're missing, though, Stephon Tuitt, who gave them 10-plus sacks last year and was that other big interior pass rusher. So from an interior standpoint, you look at Buggs this year, no sacks. You look at Chris Wormley this year, a half a sack. Cam Hayward, 2 sacks. So where's the pressure coming from? Well, the answer is T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt leads the NFL since the start of the 2020 season, leads the NFL in sacks, leads the NFL in tackles for loss, leads the NFL in quarterback hits. Is that good? Does that sound like it's good?
Can I interest you in that?
Is that
from
a triple
their perspective?
crown? Yeah, you can interest. A lot of people would be interested in that. He already has 7 sacks this year in 6 games. He's forced 3 fumbles already this year, something we have to be cognizant of. He's got 3 passes defensed as well. Watt was so dominant that many say he single-handedly won the game against the Seattle Seahawks. You want to know what his stats were in that game? Pretty impressive. He had 7 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 1 forced fumble, and 3 passes defensed in one game. Both sacks and the fumble came in overtime, making him the first player ever since sacks were recorded as an official stat in 1982 to have more than 2 or more sacks and a forced fumble in an overtime period. He basically won that game. Watt, 13 or more sacks in each of the last 3 seasons. That's the second longest streak in NFL history, tied with Derek Thomas. The only one with a longer streak is Reggie White. He has 4 seasons in a row of 13 or more sacks. He did that twice, by the way, in his career. Reggie White did. That's
he good.
It, though.
He good.
Yeah.
He was good. He was real good.
Real good.
Real good.
But T.J. Watt needs 6 sacks
and then he's
in his
there.
final 11 games, and he joins Reggie White in that very, very rarefied air. Now, Watt, in his career against the Browns, 9 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 15 quarterback hits, and an interception. 8 of the 9 sacks were produced in Watt's 6 non-losses against the Browns. There was 1 tie. I had to use that verbiage there. 1 sack only, though, in the 2 victories that the Browns won, including no sacks and no quarterback hits at all in the wild card win. Also was held without a sack in Week 6, in which the Steelers demolished the Browns. But Jack Conklin, only player to ever put on a Browns uniform that's held T.J. Watt without a sack. And he's done it twice. So good to have him back. That's big. He's a huge part of what they do on defense. And then you get the linebackers. Devin Bush has come back this year from that torn ACL, which was actually suffered against us. And he is on the season. He is the leading tackler, 25 total, along with Joe Schobert, who has 36 and is playing kind of some of that 4 passes defense for Joe the Show, which leads their linebacking core. And then on the back end, they'll play typically the 3-corner, 2 safety look. The safeties, Terrell Edmonds and Minka Fitzpatrick, who has yet to generate a turnover this year after being not only a turnover, but he was a turnover and touchdown machine.
He was, yeah.
Right after they traded for him. Of course, Joe Hayden is out there, James Pierre, as well as Cam Sutton. Those are the corners for this team. So it's a team that is still a very good defense. It's a team that goes kind of in some ways. I mentioned the 20-point number for the offense. It's also a 20-point number for their defense. So we were talking with Brooke prior about this. How about this one? I think this is wild to me. When the Steelers have held their opponents to 19 or fewer points. They are 2-0 this year. They're 1-3 when they have not. Under Tomlin, they're 115. 115 when they hold their opponents to 19 or fewer points. 115. It's 87%. That's a big sample size.
Yeah.
So that's a number. We need to get to 20. Hold them under 20. Obviously, the math there makes it an automatic win. But getting to 20 is critical against them and against this defense. But they've got good secondary. They're good up front. What they don't have, and Brooke mentioned it, is, look, Alex Highsmith and Melvin Ingram on the other side just haven't brought what Bud Dupree has brought. And so far on the season, Melvin Ingram 1 sack, Highsmith 1.5. So that is a big change from what they were expecting, I think. Now, Ingram does have 18 pressures on the year, same number as T.J. Watt. So put that in context. Think about the sacks that T.J. Watt generated. Ingram's generated the same number of pressures, but that's really been it. It's been T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, and Ingram. Those are the three. Highsmith only 9 pressures, but he turned them into 2 sacks.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. Nick Chubb back, big. Jack Conklin back, big.
Huge.
Jarvis playing, big.
One more thing to note on there, where you attack them, the safeties have struggled in coverage this year. Both Fitzpatrick and Edmonds given up a quarterback rating of 117 when targeted, 4 touchdowns on the season allowed, only 1 interception, 77% completions. Joe Hayden this year, 73% completions, 115 quarterback rating. Cam Sutton, 75. He's given up the most yards, 245 and 113. So their pass coverage hasn't been that good so far this year. And in fact, everybody of note that gets targeted on this team, from Alex Highsmith, Joe Schobert, the linebackers, Devin Bush, linebacker, Melvin Ingram, linebacker, James Pierre, Cam Sutton, Joe Hayward, and all 5 DBs, all are giving up a quarterback rating of more than 100 when targeted. So we should be able to throw the ball. This is a different Steelers team than you are used to.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, coming up next, one of the guys you'd like to see catch a lot of him is Jarvis Landry. He will be on the program coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. As you injury, call the medical malpractice attorneys at 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk & Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. All right, time to go to the podium. Here's our good buddy Jarvis Landry from earlier today.
How's that knee?
You're down.
Better.
Should you be able to go Sunday?
Yeah, for sure.
Coach said it was unrelated to the previous injury. Just how nervous did that make you when it happened?
I was very, but after the game and these past couple of days, I'm feeling a lot better.
Is there a difference for you in cases at quarterback or Baker? Do they throw the ball differently, or what kind of adjustments do you have to make?
None. I'm a pass catcher, so no matter who's throwing the ball, it's my job to catch it.
Jarvis, 4-3 and kind of fighting through all these injuries and a little bit uncertainty still at quarterback. Do you feel like this team is still positioned where it needs to be for where you guys want to go?
Yeah, damn sure. Yeah, hell yeah. I think we still have everything right here in front of us. Big division game this week that is important for us. Obviously, our division is playing really well. So this is a must-win, feels like,
The fact that the Bengals are already 2-0 in the division, does that put even more urgency on this first division game for you?
Yeah, all division games, really, and it's always been that mindset. But obviously, again, this division has kind of been, carried by the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think for the first time in a long time, as I can remember, it's pretty even, so for us, again, division games is always important, but it makes it that much more.
Jarvis, going back to the division games, is it weird to be this late into the season and not have one until week 8? Do you prefer that, or would you rather get one in earlier in the year?
Yeah, I actually prefer that. I think every time we've played a division game early, it hasn't fared well for us. So, so hopefully, the odds are a little bit different this time.
Joe Hayden's been around a long time. Just how good is he playing?
Tremendous respect for Joe. He continues to be one of the smartest defenders on the field. He continues to always find himself around the ball, making plays on the ball, and challenging guys. So, I don't expect nothing less from him.
Hey, Jarvis, I think everybody feels a little bit inspired by what the Ernest has been able to do in his journey. What's your takeaway from his accomplishments and what he has been able to do?
Man, I'm not surprised that he had the performance that he had, but also, he's a guy that, naturally don't get a lot of opportunities because, we kind of have two really great backs, two backs that be starting on any other team, that rotates here. So to have him always have the mindset of just staying ready is something that I've seen him, have throughout this whole entire time that he's been here. He's been able to step up for us. The Dallas game, I think the Chubb went down. When he came in, I think he rushed for over 100 yards that game, and he only played a half of football, you know what I mean? So for him to get his first start and his story, his journey is something that is inspiring to a lot of people, that watch this game, and it makes you love this game. That's like part of what this game is about,
You couple more. You came from the Dolphins, and now that you've been in this division a while, do these Pittsburgh games in particular have their own characteristic in your mind? Different from a typical game?
Yeah, I think even when I was in Miami, you always kind of looked at Pittsburgh, like I said, they carried the division and, I guess football in a sense. They were kind of going to be a playoff team every year, so I think even, back then, as long as I can remember it, that was always a game to kind of, I don't want to say measure where you are, but like one of the teams that were going to be in the playoffs and you wanted to win those games. You wanted to play tough against those teams. You want to win those matchups, and I think, that doesn't differ now that I'm here in Cleveland.
When you look at your stat line the other day, it wasn't like, one of your more productive games, but it felt like there was something there in terms of just energy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel the guys fed off you?
Yeah.
Did you feel that in the moment?
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to intentionally bring, I think, and I spoke after the game. I kind of said something similar about, Kevin and the first 15 and how, I think I touched the ball, 4 times on the first drive, 3 times on the first drive. So, that was something that was important, and for me and where I was physically, and I think for the energy level of the team and the stadium and things like that.
Everybody just feeds off it. It's that simple. Everybody feeds off it. That was a quick hook. I don't know. I don't know that there was a
market, dude. They got to market.
I believe you started the show with an airing of grievances.
You spoke. It happens. It happens.
It was a quick hook, though. That was a short stop. That was a Frank Costanza stop.
It was.
Short.
It was. Shades
like
of the
there wasn't
Deke.
even time to.
Yeah.
I'd give you a 0.5.
Just got to market, dude.
I think it's fair. It's fine. I'll mark it. But it's
I hear
begrudging.
you. I hear you. It's sad. You don't.
You hate to see it.
He's gonna mark it, and then we're gonna go to break, and I'm gonna get a tongue lashing on why it shouldn't be.
No, I don't think
I think
that's
we
true.
know why it shouldn't be. But that's fine. We'll mark it.
We'll mark it. There it is.
4.
What's
how do you have 5? I have 4, and Gibby has 2. I mean, he's got to.
He doesn't talk that much,
right? But he's got to have a He's got to have a demarcation for the Bridgewater yesterday.
There have been 2 of those where we run Berge. So mark him. Get him up to 4.
Wait,
5, 4.
What
4.
did I do?
Yeah, good question, young Nate.
How do I go up to 4?
Because Teddy Bridgewater, Cortland Sutton, Von Miller all being on the Steelers.
Yeah.
And you had a similar thing in there. That's happened twice.
Yeah, in the last week.
Yeah.
Yep, fair.
Yeah,
too much.
Listen, we're here. We're striving for Brad Melland perfection. We're not going to get there. This is
There's
what
only
this
one
is the
person in this
motivation.
building who can reach that level, and it's him.
And it's him.
That's it.
That's why it's
the
named
list.
that. That's
I'm
why
coming for you.
That's why it's named the Brad Melland.
The Brad Mellon level.
The level.
We should hand out a Brad Mellon Perfection Award every week.
I like that. Let's
Oh boy.
put that in the Monday shows.
In the Monday show, who was perfect?
Brad Melland.
What about the Brad Mellon
Standard of Excellence?
Standard
Award.
of Perfect. Yeah. Pursuit of Perfection
The
Award.
BM Standard of Excellence.
Yeah.
No,
that's
BM
right.
would be cause confusion in the
No,
marketplace.
we can't have that. We have to be
Brad
very
Melland.
straightforward with our marketing.
Brad Melland.
Pursuit of Perfection Award.
Brad Melland.
The BMPP.
That's right.
Perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect.
And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a player. It can be anything around the stadium. It can be anything around the presentation.
Like
I feel like
the
Joe
broadcast.
should be a part of this when he's on with you guys. Like Joe should have his own
Like
nominee for this.
The Cleveland Browns equipment hoodie.
Well, that's clearly the award.
I mean, that's the
would be
angle.
that.
That's
No, why would you say that out loud?
Angle.
This is angle. This is just out of love and
This
respect.
is genuine, right? Admiration.
I didn't say you guys. I have an angle. I want the sweatshirt.
Jeez Almighty,
Gibby.
Gibby, you don't.
All right.
There are other ways. I feel like that's
No.
a demarcation.
Yep. 5.
Brad and I have a
Start doing like
a relationship.
Sports Center when they count out. They have 5.
How many you got?
In
How many
Fuego.
years?
6.
6 in Fuegos. All right, the great Phil Dawson will join us coming up next. Go ahead. Do you have one more thing
real quick.
before I toss it to break?
Yeah, real quick. So Jarvis asked Kevin Stefanski, I was talking with Coach today, said that Jarvis wanted to come out last, did it. It was the right move. People go nuts, and that he wanted to make sure, as Jarvis alluded to, get him the ball early on that opening drive because he means something. There's an intangible lift around that man.
Heartbeat of the organization.
The Brad Mellon performance of perfection last week goes to Jarvis Landry.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Good job out of you. Phil Dawson up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. EOX Vantage has that local presence with the global footprint and trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. This is a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Ed Scheel. Ed is the vice president of Skyward Specialty Insurance. He says, quote, "The tools we've designed with EOX Vantage are real business changers that open the door for us all sorts of valuable opportunities and efficiencies. They help our team members stay on the same page while collaborating remotely. You can make it easy to communicate with customers, cut down on manual data entry and the associated input errors, and cut off processes and response times. Operationally, it is a brand new ball game for us." And you can learn more about EOX Vantage and see if it'll be a brand new ball game for you. I'm betting that it will be by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616. And with that, we head out on the hotline for visit with one of our great friends and a Browns legend, the great Phil Dawson, joining us. Phil, so good to talk to you. Great to catch up. Appreciate your time. When you see what is happening with our young kicker and this notion that he can just crush it in the dog pound end zone, 52 yards right down the middle, he has kind of come on the scene and burst on pretty sharply, my friend. What have you made of him?
Man, he's off to a great start. I'm just thrilled. Obviously, not a very friendly place for kickers, and he's made the most of his opportunities so far. So I think it's good news for Browns fans, and hopefully once that weather turns, it does become a different animal at that point. But based off what I've seen so far, I think he's got a really good chance to keep it up.
Phil, when you watch a kicker, what are you looking at? What says to you, yeah, this guy has it? It's easy for us who know nothing about the mechanics of kicking or what the ball should look like coming off the foot to say, oh, did that go in or did it not? But what are you watching, and what do you like about what Chase is doing through your eyes?
Well, I generally look for, when it comes to kickoffs, is he choosing the right direction? Some guys kind of have a one-size-fit-all approach, and that works for a little while, but like I said, once the weather turns, the results, struggle from that point forward. If you see a guy that can get out on any given day and understand what the wind's doing, different conditions, and then aim in such a way on kickoffs to maximize the kick, that shows me a guy who's on top of what he's doing. So, and then on field goals, I look at where the ball starts. Everyone would like every field goal to go right down the middle. And I remember saying this as a player when I was there, that you just don't have that luxury in Cleveland. You've got to start the ball out in such a way to give yourself the most chance of making the kick. And whether that means the ball's going to sneak in the left upright or the right, that really doesn't matter at that point. So if he, once again, understands where he's got to start the ball in order to give himself the most chances to make the kick, that tells me, you have reason to get excited.
Man, I want to go back to what you just said there, because I think so many times you'll see it from fans or even media people who will see a ball just in our stadium sneak in and upright and be like, boy, he barely made that. I guess from what I can take from what you just said there, Phil, there is no such thing as barely made it in that stadium. Anything between, it's all the same.
For example, your left hash kick, when you think is going left to right, and sometimes that ball's snapping hard, sometimes it's not. Well, the safest bet in that scenario is to aim just inside the left upright. That way, if the ball snaps hard on you, you're giving yourself the total width of the uprights for the ball to go through. If the ball stays straight and doesn't catch one of those gusts that the dog pound's known for, now it just sneaks in the left upright, and everyone's like, oh, gosh, he doesn't know what he's doing, when actually that's where you need to hit it to give yourself the most chance to make the kick.
It's like a golfer shaping a shot.
Right. And you got to aim small to miss small. And that's what I think he's talking about. Getting very precise there. Phil, I want to go back 2011, 2012, those two seasons. You go 14 of 15 on kicks of more than 50 yards, which would be quite an accomplishment, even playing in a dome as you did late in your career with Arizona, but more impressive doing it with the Browns. And, in fact, Chase McLaughlin, the first person since you to make 3 or more 50-yard field goals in a season for the Browns. That's how long it had been. That's how impressive it is. But what's the secret on those 50-plus yarders? Because it feels like a lot of guys have strong legs, but not a lot of people remain accurate from 50-plus.
I think it's being able to generate the power without pulling the driver out, to use a golf analogy.
Yeah.
The really good golfers can hit their 7-iron a long way. And we all know you're a whole lot more accurate with your 7-iron than you are your driver. So when you can generate power by being a very efficient technician being fundamentally sound. Now you got a chance on those long kicks to maintain control of the ball. And I worked relentlessly throughout my career to develop that kind of swing, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes for Chase. But like I said, he's obviously off to a great start.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is a fun one here on Sunday, Phil, with Pittsburgh coming into town. They're 3-3. We're 4-3, obviously, coming into the game. What did Steelers week mean to you as a player?
I loved it. You know, as a pro and especially a young player, trying to prove myself the way I was way back when in the dark ages, you feel a lot of pressure to put up numbers, keep your job, keep the paycheck rolling in, live to fight another day. And that's pro football. But something about Steelers week made it feel like college all over again. You know, what you personally didn't matter quite as much. It was just, let's go win a game. Let's all go together as a team. Let's represent our city. Let's put on the orange helmet and let's go see if we can't pull this thing out. And so as a pro, it was one of those games that was fun to play in because it was all about the team. It was all about the city, and it was all about bragging rights. And looking back, you know, while I didn't have the most success against the Steelers, it was one of those games you always remember playing in. And I still love it because I know something that Doug Beacon never got to experience, and that's winning a game in Pittsburgh. And every time I have a chance to remind him of that, including this week, I do it. And it's a great memory.
And Phil, how special is it to see the crowd back at First Energy Stadium? We got to see a great crowd on Thursday. Really, every home game they've been tremendous, but Thursday night national TV, everybody gets to see it. And, you know, for the Steelers last year, Week 17 was a win and get in, and we did that in front of, I think, 12,000 fans. Mm-hmm. And then you go in the playoffs, and at Heinz Field, you beat them. Literally nobody is there other than family and friends and people working for the team covering the event. What does it mean to have that crowd back for a game like this?
Oh, man, it's just – it means everything to the city, and it should. And the fact that we get to get our people back in there and not only watch the game but be a factor in the game, it just seems right. I mean, it's how it should be. Feels like planet Earth is getting back to how it should be. And knowing that Browns fans will be back in the stadium for this game makes me smile.
Phil, I heard Tom Brady say this on the Manning Cast on Monday, that he doesn't think that everybody realized how easy they had it as quarterbacks not having the crowd there. And I was thinking about this from your position, because one thing that happens anytime you go to kick, a crucial kick, if there's timeouts, they try to ice you. What advice do you have to young kickers? What did you do when that was coming? Obviously, I'm sure you prepared, know that it's coming, but how still do you stay focused on the task at hand and not let the moment become bigger than you?
Well, I was a big routine guy, and I had a strict routine I followed on the sideline leading up to opportunities. And if I, for some reason, went out on the field and they decided to ice me, I would immediately go back to the sideline, get right back in my routine, and whenever that timeout was over, I would then leave the sideline, take the field, get lined up, just like had it been a normal non-timeout, a field goal attempt. So that worked for me. I've played with guys who are the polar opposite, so I'm certainly not going to say my way was the only way. It kind of has to fit your personality. Some guys like to stand out there the whole timeout. Some guys like to go back to the sideline like I did. So identifying what it is that helps you approach the kick the way you would have without the timeout, I think that's the key. And hopefully, late in the year, I loved it when they would do it because I could then get out on the field, figure out if the wind had changed, what's the footing like, get some data, and then go back to my net and think it through. Whereas on a normal field goal attempt, you're running on the field, play clock's running down, you're trying to figure out what the wind's doing. Oh crap, there's a divot right there. Are we moving the field goal spot? Is my plant foot going to slide? What kind of rush is coming at me? Do we have 11 on the field? I mean, all this is happening all at once. You call a timeout. Now we got time to process all that information and get a plan. So kind of conflicting views on whether it works or not. But my job was to make it whether they call timeout or not.
Phil, I want to ask you this because I'm down there on the sidelines with Chase, and Chase actually kicks from the net. I feel it feels like he's a little further away from the net than any kicker that I've ever seen. And he pounds it right in the net every time. But I joked with him the other day. I said, if you missed one of these, like, you are going to absolutely just blow somebody up. Did you ever have any kind of a net incident at any point in your career? Because I wonder about these things.
Fortunately, I didn't. But, punters from time to time will miss the net. And, you're sitting there watching the game, and then all of a sudden this missile is going through the air, and you're wondering what in the world just happened. So punters have been known to do that. I've never known a kicker to do it, and I kind of joked with people, if I ever miss the net, I was just going to turn around and walk into the locker room. Because that means I'll see you. If I can't hit that net right in front of me, how in the heck am I going to make a field goal when it matters? So fortunately, it never happened to me, but hopefully Chase is safe as well.
I hope so, because I could potentially be in the line of fire if he's not. But, you think about pro golfers. We've all watched big tournaments and things like that, and sometimes they just shank one or they hit one totally wonky, and that net is not all that wide. It's tall, and it has that angle so you can, the ball kind of goes right up into that 90-degree angle at the top of it, but it's not that wide. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that crazy. We're all humans after all.
Yeah, I mean, it's you got to pay attention to what you're doing for sure, but it can prove to be a really helpful thing. There were a couple of games in my career where the net didn't quite make it to the sideline for whatever reasons, and those were tough games to try to stay loose without being able to bang it away. And I would always actually practice in the net. It wasn't just staying warm. If we had a third down on the right hash, I was practicing a right hash kick, because then usually you're throwing it on third down. If it's incomplete pass, I now know the field goal is going to be from the right hash. So I was over there actually practicing what I anticipated having to do on the field. So it's a really valuable thing to have over there, and the really good ones take advantage of it.
I mean, you started your career in 1999, but I find it hard to believe, unless this was some type of road game tomfoolery, that they would not have a net for you.
Well, back in the dark ages, the home team would provide the net. So you can imagine there were some shenanigans going on when you traveled to Cincinnati or show up in Baltimore or over at Three Rivers, whatever.
No kicking
that.
Sorry,
we can't find your net. So
That's
there
outrageous.
was some of that going on back in the day.
Jeez, it's unreal. That is great. Phil, we love talking to you, man. Thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Thanks, guys. Go Brownies.
All right, that's the great Phil Dawson, Browns legend, joining us on the hotline there.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, no, sorry, we don't have
a net for you.
Oh, okay.
What?
Fine. Works, I guess. If you're buying or selling a home with Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, always a winning strategy. If you plan to make a move this season, they're going to have you covered. At Howard Hanna, every day is game day. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Coming up next, we do our defense versus their offense. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans can win big with digital scratch-off game brought to you by the Ohio Lottery on clevelandbrowns.com and the Browns social channels. Fans can play once per day throughout the season by digitally scratching off a virtual card for chances to win great prizes like Team Shop gift cards and tickets to future games. For more information, log on to promotions.clevelandbrowns.com. Before we get into the matchup, don't you think if they brought back like those like these guys, these NFL starting lineup guys, that those would be popular with the kids?
Yes.
I feel like my kids would die to have this. Would have these guys run.
And I want like the Costico brothers posters back.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think all that has I'm looking at these guys right here and I'm going, boy, why are these not back in the mix?
They should be. If you had those and the posters, I feel like it'd be awesome. Like I used to have the Ronnie lot. I had the Hitman.
Sure you did. Yeah.
Where he had a missing finger and he's dressed up like a gangster. I had the
You definitely had the Bash.
I had the Bash Brothers, of course.
By the way, new stadium looks like they might be able to save the A's in Oakland. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
My dad remains not optimistic.
Shocking.
He's not a fan of the location.
How many things has he been optimistic about?
Never and nothing.
Never, nothing.
But he did say that the proposed site has no parking, and there's also no public transportation there. There's like parking for a quarter of the stadium, no public transportation. The only way to get there, they said, is like on these sky trolleys they're proposing to build.
No one's building a sky trolley.
I don't know. I don't know. Again, you take it with a grain of salt. I'm just telling you, this is what was
boots on the ground. Pedro is saying it's not in the cards.
Right.
So he's willing to punt that they're just going to go to Vegas, or
he doesn't. He likes the A's. He doesn't. Who
knows?
Speaking of the Bay Area, the GOAT,
Steve Young,
had some things to say about the all-time greatest quarterback in San Francisco history. Danny, go ahead.
I grew up in the Bay Area, and fortunately, Steve was the reason why I fell in love with quarterback, and was someone I looked up to in every way, a winner on and off the field, and an amazing guy. So thank you so much. Love seeing you, and hope I get to see you soon.
Holy cow.
So you're going to take it. Was Joe Montana present?
Right,
Obviously not.
Forget about you arguing with the GOAT. Forget about that.
I'm not arguing with the GOAT.
What I'm saying is that this personal attack that this man has launched
ridiculous.
on you this sneak attack. How did you even know we had it? How did you know we were going to get into this? But you have it at the ready?
This is personal.
Oh, my gosh.
Had it ready.
Diabolical.
I messaged Danny. I said, hey, do you have that clip? Yeah. I go, why don't you pull that up? Let's go to it.
Oh, my gosh. It's a diabolical attack.
I mean, the GOAT said it, so it's...
Jeez. This is the red wedding of Cleveland Browns Daily.
Not. You're taking You're taking that from a.
He's
talking right to Steve Young.
You're little Rob Stark.
I'm
you
not
think
Rob.
You're going to break bread? Everybody's fine that you didn't marry the girl of the daughter. No, it's fine.
Right now, he thinks he's Walder Frey, and he's pulled it off on me. And then soon enough, he's going to eat some pie, and that's it. That's an interview of him with Steve Young. He's kissing Steve Young's butt.
I'll just tell you this. Audience. I'll tell you this, Gibby.
Outrageous.
If Arden ever shows up at your house with pot pie, I'd pass.
Yeah, you best be passing.
I'd pass if that
That's
happens.
Right.
Wow.
So
Diabolical.
Two things have happened now. This and then something that happened on social media yesterday that I'm having a hard time getting my head around. And frankly, now in light of this ambush, this brutality, it makes me feel like perhaps Gibby is also behind this that I saw on Twitter the other day because I don't understand it.
What happened?
I don't get it. I'm looking for it right now. I'm going to have to go through my tweets.
I don't know, but I'm sure he's playing the role of the victim here.
What'd I do?
Gibby.
It's like the soap opera. Playing the role of the victim today will be Nathan Zegura.
Just have a field day. You know what this is? This is called I have nothing to do tomorrow because I don't get to be Chesty tomorrow. So I'm going to just hijack
Thursday's program
and try to be rude.
I mean, you were talking about the Bay Area. I mean, that two Bay
Was
Area
I talking
legends
about the
right
Bay Area?
There.
Well, the A's.
The A's.
I got you into it. It's amazing.
It's great. So
speaking of the Bay Area.
So
what do you have?
There is a tweet that was brought to my attention yesterday by MJ Retchless. And in that tweet is a clip of Jeff George shrugging off a Packers pass rush and throwing an absolute bomb, maybe 90 yards in the air to Eric Metcalf for a touchdown. So he tags this person, not Retchless. He brings this to my attention. Brings it to the attention of Eric Metcalf, Atlanta Falcons, Jeff George. This person's Twitter handle is @CannonArmedQB, and his name that he gets to write, Jeff George's #1 fan. It says, "Hello, I'm the biggest fan of the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff George, the most talented and strongest arm pocket passing quarterback in NFL history." And I'm like, wait, what?
There's someone bigger than you.
No,
It's
I'm
impossible.
the biggest fan.
You are.
So
for
is
sure.
this a burner that I started at some point when I didn't even know it, and it's out there in the mix?
Like when Twitter started, you're like, I gotta get this right away.
Yeah, I don't get it.
And you forgot about it.
Where does this come from? Where does this come from? So this is a lot to take in.
It's a lot going on a Thursday. Do you think you're able to do the matchup?
I don't know. I don't even want to. Why don't you have Steve Young do it? Because I'm Jeff George.
I mean,
I'm Joe Montana.
He's the reason why
I'm
Tom
the
Brady
GOAT.
fell in love with football.
I'm the GOAT. Let's see if the backup can come. Oh, I won 1 Super Bowl with great teams. Well, I won 4. I won 4 in a decade.
Why don't you have Steve Young do it?
Have Steve Young break down the matchup, Steve. Go ahead.
I should text him right now and see if he'll come on right now. Just do the matchups.
Have
Just
Steve
show
Young
you
do
up.
Go ahead. Esteban, let's go.
Be amazing if we then had just doesn't even acknowledge he's on the show or anything, but just like a 2-minute clip of Steve Young breaking the game at the ready.
Yeah, I hope you have that.
Oh, we talked about this yesterday on the matchup front. It's just they
Listen,
get it out quicker
quick
than
passing,
anybody.
2 talented
it's pretty easy,
receivers,
yeah.
great running back who in 6 games now has already amassed 632 total yards, 4 touchdowns, so he's over 100 total yards a game. Johnson's been elite, 376 and 3 in only 5 games that he's played. He missed one due to injury. Claypool's missed one as well, 358, 16.3 a catch. Those are the principles that you need to know on offense. Now, their offensive line, hey, Steve, who's the weak link on their offensive line? Who's the one that you want to take the monkey off your back for?
Do you felt like that was contrived when in the '94 Super Bowl?
Yeah, and I regret it. Okay. Legends don't have to do things like that. Do you have the answer for me there, Steve?
Steve doesn't.
No, he doesn't. Well, I'll tell you who. Right now,
I'm waiting for
their
it.
left tackle, Dan Moore Jr., has given up 17 pressures on the season. That's a third of the pressures that have been allowed. Who is Dan Moore Jr., you might ask? Well, he's their starting left tackle. He also was a 4th-round pick this year out of Texas A&M. I like Miles against Dan Moore Jr.
Texas on A&M crime there.
That's right.
Could happen.
Aggies.
Yeah, so, that's it. Our defensive front's going to be a problem for them.
It should be. We should be able to wreck this game up front. So you try to play tight coverage, make him hold the football, and then go get him. Sack, strip, fumble. Let's go. We haven't had one yet this year. I think we're due.
That's your recipe. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family owned and operated. Whether you join us as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. The Lannisters send their regards. Joe Woods at the podium up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, defensive coordinator Joe Woods at the podium from earlier today. Let's have a listen to that.
Coach, Richard LeCow was just you're down yesterday for missing practice. Any insight on what happened?
Yeah, it's just something just in terms of team rules. Yeah.
Hey, Coach, those 2 long drives you guys gave up against the Broncos, were there opportunities to get off the field that you just didn't make?
Yes. There's some different things in that game. I just wanted to kind of calm it down and pull back a little bit. So it just came down to we were just a little bit off, on the third downs. The first half we were really good. The second half we just didn't get off as much. So we cleaned that up. We talked to the guys about it. So
when you look at Pittsburgh's offense, it seems like there's a lot of underneath stuff, but then every once in a while they take that deep shot. So how do you kind of handle both aspects of it?
Right. What you said is what they do. And everybody knows it. Ben does a good job. You can't fool him. He understands coverages, and he gets rid of the ball extremely quick when he knows what he's looking at. But every now and then they will just, block it up and take shots down the field. So you have to defend both. So you have to mix your coverages, pressures, and just try to give them different looks to get them just to hold the ball for a split second.
On that, though, he's so good at avoiding sacks. And
yeah.
So what do you tell your DBs about sticking to their guy?
You have to play tight coverage, and it has to be zone and man. You want to play, some split safety defense as well, single high. But I think it's the whole combination of mixing everything. But the guys, regardless of what you're in, just being ready to get tight to their coverage.
On John Johnson's interception, did he bait Teddy into that throw? What happened?
It was good. He did a good job keying the route combination. That's what a lot of teams run, when you play quarters or they catch you in quarters. And he felt it. He just pushed off of it and did exactly what Coach Howard was teaching him to do, and just came away with a pick. So I was very, very happy to see that happen.
He's told us that this is really a new role for him. Instead of kind of moving all around, he's playing mostly that free safety. Are you seeing him take steps that way? Is he turning the corner? Is it still, getting used to it?
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's really the quarterback of the defense for us in terms of the back end. And we're really trying to get him playing more the free safety position as we're settling the other guys in. We got Grant back at the beginning of the season, so we can move the pieces around, and we will as we continue to move through the season. But right now, we're just trying to really keep him in the post and control everything.
Joe, this is probably Ben's last appearance in Cleveland. They're saying in Pittsburgh at least.
Yeah.
Does that give any added incentive to your guys?
No. We're just worried about this game, and who knows with Ben. He could play a few more years. You can see he still can make all the throws. He still understands the defense, and he's making good decisions for those guys. So who knows, but hopefully, all we have to worry about is this game. We'll see.
Joe, I know you guys want to flip the field and get turnovers. How do you make that happen? It's just as simple as making it happen?
Yeah, that's the one area just going back. During this mini-bye, we just went back and looked at our first 7 games. And we looked at all different areas, and one of the areas that we're struggling in is takeaways. Now, the one thing that we're doing differently than we did last season, we were playing more man coverage. So a lot of times your back's to the ball instead of, dropping the zones and seeing the ball. So that'll make your numbers go down a little bit, but we've had opportunities and we haven't cashed in.
Pittsburgh's new coordinator has really made a commitment to try to run the ball. And last 2 games, it looks like they have. But
yeah.
How's it going? How does it affect?
You can definitely see his influence, taking over as a coordinator. The last 2 games, I believe Harris is 3rd overall in the NFL just in terms of rushing yards. And he gets more than half of those yards after contact. And I think they're 6th in the NFL in terms of explosive runs. I think with their system, because of the RPOs and the throws that Ben makes, you don't feel it as much. But when you look at the tape, you certainly feel it. So, we're definitely going to have to gang tackle this running back and get as many guys around as we can.
Miles got up to such a fast start last year. Do you think he's playing at the same level this year? Next through 7 games or 9.5?
It feels that way. He's definitely affecting the game. There's different things we're trying to do with him, move him around to create matchups. But he's definitely making an impact, and I think he's making it easier for other guys as well.
When he plays a guy like TJ's on the field at the same time, do you think Miles gets any more juice up for a matchup like that?
No. He's on the other side of the ball, so I don't. I think Miles is worried about how he can affect the game for us.
Kind of off of Miles and helping others. Joe, the top 5 pass rush win rate, you guys have 3 with McKinley, Clowney, and Miles up there. Do you think that is because they're really able to help one another and get there to the quarterback?
I think it's a little bit of that. I think they're learning and they're working well together. And I think we're able to move them around just because of their ability. But I think the key word you said is 3. Yeah. When you have 3, I think it makes it easier. And obviously we want to continue to affect the quarterback as much as we can.
During the mini bye, did you throw out anything?
I would say maybe this reorder maybe the cause. And you guys, have asked me multiple times just with all the guys we have, how much do you keep putting in? And that's what happens. It's like, how much can you put in and how much is too much? And I kind of flirted with that line a little bit. And then when you make 1 or 2 mistakes, was it worth it to do it? So we really looked at that, and we're really going to try to keep a tight menu, but maybe pick more from certain packages game to game instead of trying to do a little bit of all of them.
Is that what contributed to some of those busted coverages?
Yeah, well, you come out in practice and you rep some of those pressures to certain looks, and you get in the game and it's something you didn't rep it against, and if somebody's off, just a drop or their gap, and now you get hit with a play. So just very conscious of that, and just want to make sure I do a good job preparing them, but at the same time, don't give them too much.
Going back to Miles, I know he's talked about maybe some of these calls he's not getting that he feels like he should be getting. Yeah. How have you seen him fight through that physically and mentally, I guess?
It's the NFL. It happens every week. So he just said something to me earlier, and I was like, hey, but they're going to hold you. I mean, that's the NFL. Same thing with DBs. Receivers will push, we grab. How many flags are they going to throw? So he'll be fine.
Joe, their rookie tight end seemed to have a lot of catches their last game. Do you think they're like turning a corner and incorporating him a little more?
Yeah, they have a good tight end group. I mean, they have guys that can run. They have size. But you can definitely see he's become more of a factor in terms of getting the ball. You can see it on first, second down. You can also see it on third down.
You think Jadeveon is going to be able to play?
I hope so. I do. I think he is.
In last week, the Delpit blitz where he wasn't able to finish that sack, but that speed that he showed, I mean, is that something where you see and you're like, man, we can do a lot of stuff with this guy?
Definitely. But that's what happens. We can do this, we can do that. You just have to be careful. Because the looks you see week to week, they could be different. Their game plan than you. So that's just moving forward. I just want to be aware of that and not give them too much.
We know those hamstrings can be tricky. I mean, do you think it's going to be hard for Ward to make it for this game?
I don't know. Just take it day to day and see where he's at. He's out there going through the walkthrough part of practice with us, so we'll see what happens the next couple of days.
How do you feel like you guys are set? I mean, it's like, Greg was out. I know Denzel had to come out.
About 2 minutes left.
That's, for me, it's just it's the next guy up. Because if you worry about injuries, guys going down, man, you'll be sick. So it's like, I feel confident in the guys we have in the back end. So, Greg, Reed will start, Troy, and then we have other guys we're preparing to play too if Denzel doesn't make it.
How kind of valuable has Reed been because of that stuff that's happened?
He stepped up and played well. I mean, he's made plays on the ball, created fumbles. So I'm very pleased where he's at. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now. So it's just an opportunity for him to step up for the defense.
What do you make of their rookie running back? Anything unique about him?
Big, strong, physical, hard to tackle, can catch the ball out of the field. He's doing a lot of good things for him. And you can see they're really trying to establish the run game and that physical nature of football.
Do you see them taking the focus of the offense, the running game, away from Ben in this year?
No, I think it's in their system is built in terms of what they choose to do or how they operate. But I think they definitely want to run that guy for sure. Definitely.
Joe, it's obviously not your side of the ball, but when a guy like Dearness has a game like he has Thursday night, do you use that as a message to kind of send a message to guys, be ready, get ready for that opportunity, whatever it might be?
That's a message. Yeah, that's a message that Kevin talked to the whole team about. After the
30 seconds.
You always have to prepare. You always have to be ready to go, when your number's called. And he was behind really 2 great backs, and his number was called, and he had a great night. So I'm happy for him. The whole team's happy for him, and it definitely sends a message.
So it seems like Mac Wilson showed up a little bit the last couple of games on tape. What have you seen from him?
Mac's doing good things. I think early on, just with the rotation, he wasn't getting a lot of reps. But the last few games,
5 seconds, you're hot.
And he's played really well for us, and he has to continue to do that, especially with JOK out.
Next couple of weeks for this defense are going to provide very different challenges, but as our quarterback gets back to healthy, they need to be able to be leaned upon, and they're going to need to have a good one this week. We know how to play it, and then next week is going to be a far bigger challenge because of how explosive that offense is.
Yeah, we have a chance here. Look, in our wins, we've held our opponents to 12 points a game. Yeah. That's what we need to do here. You do that historically. I went through the numbers earlier in the show. You beat the Steelers if you hold them down around that 12 number. So this is a game, again, that feels like our offense can have success. We talked about they haven't been great against the run, and other than T.J. Watt, they're not really getting home. Their defense isn't generating turnovers like it normally does, so we've got to be smart and take care of the football. But as I said, every principle of their defense on the back seven is giving up a quarterback rating of over 100 when targeted. This is not the same old Steelers. We're the toughest team in the league to pass on, one of the toughest teams in the league to run on. That's not who they are right now. So we need to take advantage of that offensively, but defensively, for Joe Woods' group, have another one of those good outings like you had against Denver. And now the thing about Denver is you did exactly what you want to do, and it should be similar in this game. You've got a quarterback that really doesn't push it down the field much. They have two good receivers, which Denver had. They have excellent running backs, which Denver had, and Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. They have a better tight end in Noah Fant than they've got, obviously, in Pittsburgh. But we made them, on their touchdowns, work so hard to get the ball down the field. Now, it goes back to 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
At the goal line that we let up touchdowns on. You stop that, all of a sudden we win that game 17-6. And you say, again, dominant performance. It still was a very good, but it comes 2 plays were the difference of 8 points. And we need to be on the right side of those 4-point plays. That's what this whole self-scout was about, was how do we get better on the 3rd, the 4th down, the money downs, and how do we generate more turnovers? Last year when we went in the bye, we had 17 takeaways through the first 8 games. We were leading the league. Sometimes these things come in bunches. We just got to keep doing it. I know they're working on it. They're stressing it, but hopefully that will start coming against this Steelers team because you know how it was when we had 5 takeaways in that playoff.
Worked pretty well.
Worked out well, yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's kind of been an Achilles heel all season for the defense, it is 3rd down. It's the money downs. We struggle to get off the field, and sometimes 3rd and long. Now some of it's not our fault. There's been some absolutely horrendous penalties, especially the pass interferences. And yes. Look, you guys watch the games, you know them. You remember Chicago. You remember happening against Chicago, Minnesota, Chargers, Cardinals, all of them. We had horrendous calls in all of those games that were all of those. Every single one of those was a money down. It was either a 3rd and long or a 4th down situation where you had calls go against you. But you got to get off the field. And the other thing that does stink a little bit defensively is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was playing at a level that was, the trajectory was to be in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's where he was. He led us in tackles. He was one of the highest-graded linebackers in all the NFL. I believe he was the highest-graded linebacker in the NFL prior to the injury. And his loss is felt because he is a heat-sinking missile that erased mistakes by others. And the timing of a player of his abilities being hurt, it's always brutal. But the timing of it, because you did feel like there was real momentum for him as the injury occurred.
You did, and so for JOK, the hope would be, right, he missed last week against the Broncos. That was his first game out.
He didn't play against the Cardinals either, did he? Or did he get hurt in that game?
I thought he got hurt near game? He got hurt the same day that Kareem got hurt.
So that's Cardinals.
Yeah,
so in
he's
that
only
game,
missed one, so he's not back until New England.
Yeah, so you got the next 3. Yeah, so. But yeah, I mean that's the tricky part is we're getting momentum with him, and then he's down. So everyone's gonna have to lift it up. Mac among them, as was asked in the press conference. So 2 very different challenges the next 2 weeks, but you need to be able to rely on your defense the next couple of weeks to take care of business. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Raising Cane's. What do you get when you combine the best ingredients with the best crew? You get Raising Cane's quality chicken finger meals made just for you. Join the crew, ready to safely serve the community. Apply today at work@canes.com or text RC Jobs to 97211. Standard message rates may apply. Raising Cane's, one love. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And the Kevin Stefanski Show broadcast live tonight at West Park Station, presented by
Come
our
on out and
friends
see us.
at Bud Light. See you and Gibby.
And you. No, you'll be there.
Well, we'll see. Maybe I will be. Maybe I won't. 7 to 8 for giveaways, drink specials. Kevin Mack will be there.
That's right.
He will be there. That's tonight at 7 o'clock. The Kevin
right there.
Stefanski live from West Park Station, presented by Bud Light. Yeah, was there ever enough of the? Did any team have enough where you could actually like set them up to play a game?
No,
like the full offense. There were a lot of Giants. I remember. I felt like there were a lot of Bears, but a lot.
Were
of
there
that was
ever
their defense.
offensive linemen?
I don't know.
I
I
don't
feel like
think
there
so.
was a Russ Grimm to me.
I don't
like give me
think
like
so.
the Washington Hogs. Remember them?
I do remember the Hogs. Johnny
yeah,
Riggins.
I could see a Jim Lachey.
Oh yeah, sure.
Starting lineup potentially in the mix.
Stepping all over Paul Keel's end too.
Oh, jeez, gosh, assault on the great Jim Lachey.
Love Jim.
One of the nicest
I love
gentlemen
him.
ever.
I love him, but
let Big Daddy breathe. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
your words, not mine.
Man's calling. Got to get out of the way. First, what's the only piece of advice that I gave you when it came to being in the booth?
Oh yeah, you just let Jim shine.
Let him shine.
Let him
Like,
shine. Don't step on his stuff.
I believe I used the term "don't Lachey him."
You did, and I didn't.
Yeah.
No.
I did have one on. I think we had early in the game. Joe Schobert, as a matter of fact, if I recall, it was actually a year ago. Tomorrow was my 4 years ago. Tomorrow was when we were in London for the Vikings and the Browns. Oh, so he's got it's back. He's got the sweater under it again.
Sweater underneath.
Yeah, the Carolina blue.
Jeez.
Look at that. What color shoe is that? Is that the brown with the white?
He's in the brown with the white.
Very nice.
It's a gorgeous.
Senior say, yeah, it is gorgeous.
It's just
see from
beautiful.
far though, it looks like it could be a the blue shirt, white collar. From far away.
From far away, it looks like the half,
power.
Yeah,
the power shirt.
Yeah, and there's no question.
No question at all.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
I found a Javon Curse.
Oh gosh, that's
defense.
more recent though. I mean,
there's definitely an LT.
No question.
Yeah, no
Reggie
question.
White. I mean, they would have had all those guys. A Dexter Manley in the mix.
Oh, Dexter Manley, sure.
But was there an offensive tackle pro set or a left guard pro set? My bet would be somebody from Washington would have been, or a Munoz, Anthony Munoz. I bet you Anthony Munoz has a pro set.
Starting lineup? I don't know.
Starting
about
lineup.
that.
I'm sorry.
Pro set wasn't that there was a football card.
That's
set.
right.
Yeah, I had that. So I was going to say the only time I think that I ever stepped on it was Schobert got an interception early in that game. And
Munoz.
I went, and you were like, don't make sound effects.
1 minute.
Oh, yeah. Good call.
Munoz.
Look at him.
Yeah, Munoz.
By the way, starting lineup football series went from 88 to 2000. I did not think it went that.
Why is it out?
Well, I know
though?
there's a Manning one. I know there's a Manning one that's out
There's
there.
a Jeff George.
Of course. Which team?
Definitely Falcons and Raiders, I know.
Yeah. Do you have those?
One of them, at least.
I've got the old Magic Johnson one that's still in my office.
I bet the
30 seconds.
biggest
Hey,
Jeff
look
George fan has
look
both
at
of them.
I had every single jersey.
Biggest Jeff
Look
George
at yeah,
has
that's
all
right.
of them.
That's
You know he
So
does.
many options. All right, you got Monday Night Football. Green Bay at Arizona.
Wednesday night taped. We'll call it Thursday night football.
Thursday Night Football live.
Arizona 40, Green Bay
10.
33.
Same.
But it's Thursday.
Next
Or
level's
is it?
next. Cleveland Browns Daily.
Or is it?
ESPN Cleveland.
We switched it up on you.
You've been listening to Cleveland Browns Daily.